Hello, I'm Greg Levine. I'm managing editor of Firedog Lake, and this is the party line for April 29th, 2011. And I am holding in my hand an actual photograph, the only known existing photograph of an infant Barack Obama and his young mother at a Hawaii hospital. Unfortunately, that photograph was destroyed in a fire. Kind of ridiculous, no? Almost as ridiculous as the sight of the president having to call a press conference, or should I say choosing to call a press conference on Wednesday to show off a copy of his actual birth certificate, when what he had shown before was perfectly legitimate and everyone who stood up to say so was now made to look a little, I don't know, silly because the president still felt the need to go one step further. I don't really want to talk that much about it, except to say that Donald Trump showed the birthers and frankly everyone in America that if you really want something, all you have to be is filthy rich to get it. It's the American way. Sick-making television, honestly. It's a week for sick-making television. There's also the British stimulus package, also known as Kate and Will's, £20 million, $32 million. Whatever you want. But really all of that mild dyspepsia compared to Thursday's spectacle when President Obama took the mic to introduce his newly reshuffled national security team, where you take CIA Director Leon Panetta, have him replace Bob Gates at the Pentagon, have General David Petraeus move from Afghanistan over to head the CIA, and so on and so forth down the line. Honestly, really stomach churning. I mean, there is the whole spectacle of seeing first the Director of Central Intelligence, a guy who has now famously pretty much admitted missing all the clues that this whole Arab Spring was going to erupt this year, being now put in charge of the organization that is going to be forced to sort of ham-handedly intervene in the aftermath because we didn't actually have any kind of real policy laid out in advance. And then you take a guy who is sort of, by training, supposed to shoot first and ask questions later, and appoint him to a position where he's supposed to be our great global ear to the ground. Failing upward seems to be the American way once you get above a certain station, but honestly, even more disturbing than all of that is the further melding, mingling, and mixing of the military and the intelligence parts of our government. Now, Marcy, Jim, David, they've all talked about this to some extent, to a great extent, really. But I'm going to add my 2 cents. One of the most disturbing things to me about this is that it lends credence to one of my favorite pet theories of the last decade or two, which is what I call the sick man of the Americas. This idea that, not unlike the Ottoman Empire some 110, 20 years ago, well on its downward decline, still had enough military might to wreak havoc in Europe, thus earning the moniker the sick man of Europe. The United States, seeing its economic prowess, its cultural influence, its diplomatic weight, all on the downslide, still has one thing that it can really do, and that's blow things up. And that when push comes to shove, when we don't feel that our economic or diplomatic weight will pass muster, we turn to our military. Which really not only pisses the world off, but makes it a really unpleasant place to be. And what's really sad is that it doesn't need to be this way. I mean, granted, there are plenty of forces that are well entrenched in the government structure that are benefiting, profiting from a situation like this. But there's also a class or several classes of people who honestly would like to see things evolve a little differently. This week I'm thinking of a Mr. Y. Mr. Y is actually two senior members at JCS, Joint Chiefs, who have drafted a paper on our national strategic narrative. And what they say a lot of things, but I'm going to really shorthand it here, because one of the things they basically say is that rather than think of security in terms of just what kind of sort of big wall we can put up, how much firepower we need to sort of keep the world at bay, we should think of security as a sort of internal need, that through internal strength we build security so that we don't have to keep the world at arm's length, our great big powerful, blowing up kind of arms, at arm's length, and can actually become both a leader and a more secure country by taking what we would have invested there and investing it in making us invested in our American institutions, invested both in making us a more just society, making us a more economically just society, legally just society, but also in the next wave of technology and in reinvigorating American business. This is, like I said, a very short version and only part of the argument of this Mr. Y, but it's not a surprising thing to come out of a part of the military, an emerging class of military leaders who have now been through the meat grinders of Iraq and Afghanistan for the last 10 years, who honestly are just tired of playing pinky to the black baggers at CIA and DIA's brain, if I can make that reference, and would like to see a little less having to clean up the mess of their elders and a little more proactive thinking. So you've got those people, but you've also got outside in the civilian sector all of the people who flocked to the polls in 2008, who honestly would like to see the world the way, honestly, the candidate Barack Obama in 2008 laid it out, where, okay, granted, he did promise escalation in Afghanistan, and it's the one campaign promise he really kept. I've probably said that before. But he also talked about pulling out of Iraq and reinvesting a lot of our military money, reinvesting all that money that we're wasting over there in reinvigorating America at home, in developing, for instance, a new green economy, a post-carbon economy, research, development, infrastructure. These were things that honestly were very exciting. One of the things that was very exciting to me and very exciting to all of the new voters that flocked to the polls, and liberals of any age, really. So here you have like an up-and-coming part of the military power structure. You have a broad swath of the electorate that really was responsible for putting President Obama in office, and given the opportunity to take that part and reinvigorate it and excite it and grab hold of it and again maybe deliver some of the change that he promised in 2008, he instead decides to rearrange the deck chairs and double down on the bang bang, which is sickening, really. I mean, there's a lot of icebergs out there, and this is the strategy. And the band played on. And that's the party line. See you next week.